All right, I want to say good morning. Today, what I want to talk about is rescuing. Three mistakes that we make when we rescue people, and even in relationships. So, if you have this pattern of rescuing people, most likely what you're going to see is you're going to find yourself violating your own boundaries because you're rescuing people. And I want to talk to you about what happens when we go after rescuing people and trying to change people that really don't want to be changed. And I think for me, what I'm realizing is that it's a sense of control. Like I want to control the outcome of someone else. So when you want to try to control the outcome of somebody else's result or maybe their action, because you feel like, man, they shouldn't do this. And if only they would listen to me, if only I could save them, if only I could love them. But what you got to understand in the process of you trying to rescue those who do not really want to be rescued, guess what? You will lose your identity. That's the first thing you're going to do is lose your identity. You're going to give so much and so much and so much to a point where you don't even know who you are. You violate so many boundaries of yourself because for the greater good. You think it's for the greater good, but the next thing you know, you don't even know who you are anymore. The value that you once have, you don't have anymore because you toss them aside trying to rescue someone that really doesn't want to be rescued. The second thing that happens, it creates really frustration, and it actually creates you to be dishonoring as well. It creates you to be frustrated, to be critical, because most likely the whole cycle of a rescue, you become a victim and then you start to persecute the person. You tend to resent the people. You start by loving, okay, I'm loving and I'm going to do this, I'm going to help them. And then you start to resent them. Why? Because they're not changing. Like, why are you not changing? Because you can't change anyone but yourself, right? And this is interesting because the pattern of trying to rescue somebody also puts you in a position of a punching bag or an airbag, an emotional airbag. What is an emotional airbag? I was just talking to a friend. Fortunately, she got into an accident. She's okay. But she talked about her airbag came out and she was wearing her glasses. She got hurt. And I start to think about this analogy of an airbag. An airbag comes to protect you from the consequence of you hitting yourself, right? But we at times, when we try to rescue people, we become airbags for people's emotional baggages, and then we get hit. We get hit. What's supposed to be their consequences, we become the buffer. And guess what? If you are the buffer or the emotional airbag of somebody else, guess what? They'll never hurt and they will never change because they can't learn from their consequences. See, consequence is a teacher. And if you don't people have the consequence to learn from their mistakes, you become the mistake and they'll resent you for it eventually. Okay, here's some solution. First of all, what I just said, number one, you got to allow the consequences to be the teacher, not you. You could only instruct as much as you can, but life experience is really the true teacher. I remember I had one of my kids always wanting to touch a hot stove, right? Like not a stove, it was like a hot dish. And one day I kept telling them not to. And one day I just allowed them to do it. And they did. And guess what? To this day, they still talk about how painful that was, but they never ever did it again. But I'm not saying to allow people, your kids to do whatever, but I am saying that when you become the boundary of somebody else versus teaching them to create their own boundaries by their consequences, living out their consequences, then you will always be codependent on that person. You will always be codependent, and you will always be that punching bag or that airbag, that emotional airbag. Okay, so number one, allow the consequences to be the teacher, and also get to the root of your rescuing pattern. Get to the root of it. I know for me, what I found is I will actually go through becoming that emotional airbag for people because I don't want them to hurt, quote unquote. It's actually not love, it's more control than it is. But I found it's this deeper subconscious memory that I have trying to rescue like my mother because she was going through a lot. And I tried as a kid, tried to rescue her and I couldn't do it. So now as an adult, my tendency is trying to rescue people, almost trying to fix what I couldn't fix as a kid. That's the root for me. That is the root of me trying to rescue. And yours might be different, but for me, it comes from an incomplete rescue as a child. And now as an adult, I still trying to subconsciously rescue people. So hopefully that makes sense. Lastly, you got to accept the facts that some people won't change. They'll tell you, but based on their action, they won't. There's only two things you can do. Is number one, you get to grieve about the fact that they can't and that they won't. And unfortunately, you're going to be front row to see their life break down in front of you. And that's grief. And that's what you get to do, is you get to be able to grieve. And then the last thing you get to do is release. You got to release some of these people, because or else you're going to find yourself digging your own grave. Okay? So that's what I wanted to talk to you about. But remember, sometimes rescuing people is just a distraction from us dealing with our own life, dealing with who we are, or dealing with the fact that we may not know who we are. And we live our life just serving and rescuing and hope to have an identity. That doesn't get your identity. Again, thank you so much for watching. Again, put me, and you could join my Discovering Your Authentic Self. We could connect and talk. I'll see you. Have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment and share. Thank you. Take care.